Welcome back, everyone, to another one of our Arizona real estate market review videos. This is a long form video where we are going to discuss all of the major Arizona real estate numbers from the month of December 2025 and what we're seeing moving into January of 2026. I am Katie Evans, the real estate boss mom here in Arizona, and I'm super excited. So if you're looking for kind of a deep dive into some of those Arizona real estate market trends and numbers, you are absolutely in the right place. All right, let's jump in and get started. I am going to share my screen and we are going to be looking at the factoid numbers that we usually like to go over in this video. So you're used to seeing this particular slide. You've seen it many times before. Now, okay, here we go. So let's launch right into those December numbers. These are the numbers that we saw in December. We couldn't pull them until the beginning of January. That's how we do this. So our supply, remember, there's two ways that we measure these numbers. There is an annual and then kind of like a monthly. So this is how we do it. So our supply number, we actually went down in our supply number. So we went from 4.6 months worth of supply, meaning if no other houses came to the market at the rate that things are selling right now, how long would it take us to sell everything off? So we went from 4.6 months of supply down to 4.2 months of supply. Inventory, similar number, just how do we do the days? Okay. So we saw the same sort of trend. Again, if we didn't get anything more, we went from 122 days on market to 109 days on market. Remember, this is everything in the Arizona Multiple Listing Service, the Arizona MLS. Okay. So we're not talking, this is only single family homes. This is like everything. All right. So these are big, broad strokes across the street. So our active days on market actually went up by 6 days, as you can see there. And our closed days on market also went up, but only by 3 days. All right. So that's about, if you're trying to like gauge the Arizona market as a whole, these are those numbers that you can do. Now, if you're a seller looking to get really specific about your home, your neighborhood, your city, we're going to be talking about completely different numbers. All right. So just make sure that you keep that in mind as we're going through these. Our active price per square foot this last month in the Arizona MLS, the Armless, was $360.06. So going up. Guys, what I would like to bring to your attention is the conversation that we've been having for 3 years, at least. And that is if you're not coming out of the gate having your house priced correctly, you are going to be experiencing those longer days on market. In fact, you may be one of those that we'll talk about a little bit later that is just pulls the plug and says, I quit. All right. You're not getting your house sold right now. Sellers, we have to be very, very reasonable and understand where the market is at. Trust your agent. If you've got a good one, they know how to price these houses. They're looking at the numbers. They're looking at the trends. And if not, would you please give me a call so we can talk some reality, okay? Our sold price per square foot is actually $301.71 a square foot. Now that number went up, but do you see the discrepancies between the actives and the solds? Big delta between the two. Our average sold price in the month of December. So remember, average, you take everything, add it all together and divide it by the number of transactions, was $617,689. That was up. Our median sold, meaning you take everything and there's half below, half above, is $449,000. Now, for the first time in probably over a year, and I'd have to go back and double check all of my slides here, we actually saw that number slip by just $1,000. So that decrease was by $1,000. It was not huge. All right. Now, if we go down to what's happened over the last 12 months, again, average sell price over the last 12 months, we had another all-time record high. That was $601,231. And our median sold for the last 12 months, you guys, this number has been the same for almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. $450,000 is our median sell price here in the state of Arizona, and it has been for almost 2 years. So what does that mean to you? If you're looking to buy a house here in Arizona and you're looking for something that's kind of the bread and butter right in the middle, that's really about the price of the home that you're going to need to be able to qualify and afford if you want something in Arizona. Appreciation, our price per square foot over the last 12 months, you have seen about 1.8% positive appreciation. That number has stayed the same from last month. That's why it's in white. And over our last 30 days, same thing. We're very, very steady right now at a positive 1.6% appreciation. Okay, so let's stop screen and let's start just having a conversation about what is actually happening in the Arizona real estate market right now. So in our meeting where we were discussing and going through all these numbers and talking about what they really mean as agents and really masterminding around these so that we could share this information with you, deemed this 2025. Oh, I'm sorry, not 2025, 2026. We've moved on. 2026, we're deeming this the year of acceptance. All right. We have spent the last 3 years, mostly the sellers and the buyers because of affordability issues. We have spent the last 3 years going through all of the different stages of mourning. We've been angry. We've been trying to force our will upon the market. We have gone through every single stage of grief that there is. And so 2026 is going to be the year of acceptance. All right. We are going to accept the interest rates are going to stay in the low sixes. Maybe if we're really lucky, we're going to see them in the upper fives. We're going to accept the fact that the housing market is not going to crash and these prices are not going to come crashing down. And we're going to accept the fact that if we want to buy a house, we got to figure out how we're going to do that. We're going to be adaptable and we're going to start thinking a little bit outside of the box. All right. How do we get a 6.25% interest rate down a few points to make it a little bit affordable? How do we do that? What are the strategies? What are the tricks? Now, I've been putting out videos for the last several months that are talking about a lot of these, where the best deals are, how we can use our seller concessions to buy down our interest rates, like all these different things. We're going to start talking more about assumable loan products. You may or may not want to do an assumable loan, but it might be something that we can talk about. So we're going to start talking about things that are a little bit more outside the box for the year of acceptance for 2026. Let's talk about some of the more detailed numbers around our Arizona real estate market. Okay, so let's look at this. We're starting with our available listings. Sorry about putting mom glasses on. So in 2026, we actually started with 23,033 available listings. That's down 6% month over month, but that's up 10% year over year. Right. So the argument of, well, we don't have enough inventory, is that really a great argument? So January keeps the streak alive with 10 straight months for the most listings to start a month in 10 years. Okay. So we're seeing more and more and more inventory. Now, the challenge with that inventory is when we go down and look at the under contract and all that kind of stuff, is those houses that are sitting on the market, it's the crappy old stuff, you guys. It's the stuff you don't really want to buy. It's the stuff that's not moving. And sellers, we are no longer in the market where we haven't been in the market for almost 3 years where you can just list anything and it's going to sell. I am sorry, we are in the market where if a buyer asks you for a new roof, you may need to consider doing it. If they're asking you for a new air conditioning unit, you may need to do it. That's the market that we're in right now. Right? You most likely are going to get asked for seller concessions. And if you don't do it, they will probably move on. Right? It is a challenging seller's market right now. And that doesn't mean there aren't negotiations. That doesn't mean your house isn't the house and the one that will get the multiple offers. But it means if you're not prepared to go to market, if your house isn't staged properly, if you have done nothing towards that deferred maintenance, you may end up being one of these old, crappy, stale listings that is sitting on the market for forever. Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about assumable, so I'm not going to beat that dead horse, but just listed, meaning new listings, not the active ones that have been sitting there for forever, but the new listings in January. In December, we actually saw 6,035 new listings. And despite this number being down 13% month over month, it is the most in a December since 2021. Oh, again, it's the fifth most in the last 10 years. So we're seeing houses come to market. We really, really are. Let's talk about under contract. January begins. So when we rolled from December 31st to January 1st, we had 6,044 properties under contract. That is up 77% year over year and 15% from 2024, which is 2 years ago. All right. So it was a stronger December than we have seen in the past 2 years. And that's probably why people are starting to feel a little bit more optimistic about the Arizona real estate market, because we are seeing movement. We are seeing things start to go. Now, I do want to bring a little level of sobriety to this conversation. And I told you that before. We've got a lot of old, stagnant listings sitting on the market right now. It is taking longer, so buyers don't judge it just because it's sitting longer. But there comes a tipping point when, yeah, it's going to make a difference. We actually, so this is the number that I want to bring a little sobriety for you. How many of our listings that were on the market actually expired or got canceled in 2025? And the number in 2025 was 35,644 listings came off the market. 10,840 of those expired and 23,779 actually were canceled. Now, that doesn't mean that those properties didn't come back to market, maybe with a different agent. Maybe they cleared out their days on market count by waiting for 90 days and then came back to market. Like, I don't know the answer to all of those questions, but I'm telling you that over 35,000 properties went on market and then came off market in 2025, right? And in the month of December alone, it was just under 4,000 properties that did that. Not surprising, it's the end of the year, but we had 3,783 properties in December alone. And those had an average cumulative days on market of 174 for the expireds and 129 for the cancels. Okay, so at that point, the sellers gave up, decided to go a different route, decided to do something different, that kind of a thing. Again, if you do not come out of the gate priced properly and have your property prepared to go to market, you are going to struggle in today's market to get your house sold. And you'll probably sell it for less than you could have if you invested a little money up front and priced it correctly up front. All right. Okay, so let's look at our closed sales. December actually saw 6,394 units closed. That is not a bad number. That was up 18% month over month and up 14% year over year. And that is going to end us as the highest December since 2021. So we are starting to feel that recovery. It is a slow recovery. It is not a hockey stick recovery. It is gradual and slow and steady. And we're going to just sort of trudge along, barring any unforeseen craziness that's happening in the world right now. Okay, well, let's see. In December, we saw 5,892 properties do a price adjustment, and that was of at least $100. But of those, 158 had a cut of $10,000 or more, and the median price cut for those properties was actually $20,000. All right, to my point where if you price it properly at the beginning, you're probably not going to have to do those kind of price cuts. All right. Let's talk about, this was a very interesting number. You probably don't care about it unless you are actually in this market, but we actually saw 703 over $1 million properties close in the month of December, which for that market is a huge, huge number. Now, you might be asking why? Well, the really simple question or the really simple answer to that question is for tax purposes. All right. The wealthy, those people that are owning those homes are doing strategic tax moves at the beginning and the end of the year. And so that would have been a tax reason that so many of those closed in December. But yay, that's kind of fantastic for that segment of the market. Okay, once you get to the right list price, we're seeing a 97% list to sold price ratio. That doesn't mean you started there and you have like a 3% decline. No, once you finally get to the right number, you're 97% there. You're 97% of the way there. Okay. We also see a listing success rate of about 61%. You guys, that's 1 in 6 properties still not completing their transaction. That is a little bit of a bugger. And yeah, don't love that for you guys. So a couple other things that I wanted to kind of discuss with you. Um, This was a great discussion that we had, and I'm going to kind of end it on this. I don't want to make this video too long, but I'm going to end it on this. There was somebody that gave a quote in our group, and I can't even remember who they said they were quoting, but this is a brilliant quote. And if you are a seller, I want you to just this. I want you to put it into your heart. I want you to mull it around. I want you to really, really think about this. There is the thought that when you as the seller have such a high esteem of your own house, that you are the highest bidder on your house, like this is where you think your house is valued at, and it's higher than what the market really is. Well, guess what? If you're the highest bidder, you get to keep your house. Is that really what you're in the market to do? If not, now we can have reasonable conversations about what we need to do to get your house ready for market, and reasonable conversations about where we should price your house to meet your goals in the market. All right. This is not the market to say, let's just test the waters. It just isn't. We're not testing the waters. We're either selling a house or we're not selling a house. All right. That is really where I want you to think. Now, I'm going to leave you with one other just thought to ponder. If back in the COVID pandemic era, you did a forbearance on your property and you've kind of forgotten about it and you think you're going to go sell your house, that is a question that your agent should be asking you, because you're going to have to pay that money back. And what we're finding right now in the marketplace is we're to that point where some of those sellers are back in the marketplace and they're wanting to sell their house. They have forgotten that they took this forbearance during those years. And now when they go to sell it and they have to pay that back, it actually is putting them in a short sell or a kind of a distressed situation on the sale of their house. And that's not great for anybody. So make sure that you take note if you're considering selling your house in the next little while. Remind yourself whether or not you took that forbearance during those years, and make sure that that is accounted for when your agent is putting together their net sheet for you, so that you can actually see, are we in trouble with this forbearance or are we good? All right. So I'm going to wrap up this video with that. As always, if you haven't taken an opportunity to subscribe to and put the little bell on our YouTube channel, we sure would love you to do that so that you get notified when we put out other videos. We put a few out a week. They're all here just to educate you on the Arizona real estate market and what it means to buy, sell, and invest here. If you're watching this on social media, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment. And of course, share this information with anybody in your world that you feel like might really like to know about this, but hasn't seen it yet. And from the bottom of my heart, you guys, we are here to be a resource for you. So if there's anything I can do to be of assistance to you, any questions I can answer about the Arizona real estate market, please don't hesitate to reach out, DM us. Love to help in any way, shape, or form that we can. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on our next video.